Your SOC 2 audit for the first time is going wrong. What do you do? Sadly, I talk to companies that they engage on their SOC 2 type 1 audit, sometimes type 2, and it goes miserably wrong. They realize very quickly that they're being asked for things that they don't have. They have no idea what it is, and I don't know what to do. And so let's talk a little bit about what you should do if you are in the situation, the unfortunate situation of your SOC 2 audit gone wrong. So what you should do is stop your audit. So that's the first thing I will say. Don't plow through your audit and just keep trying to make it work when you're missing this and missing that and don't know what you're asking. Just stop. Just tell the auditor just stop. And then the recommendation would be is to take a look at your control environment. Hopefully you did a gap assessment or a SOC 2 readiness at some point. Go back to that and, okay, where did this thing go wrong? And really look at your control environment and really understand, okay, what did we put together? Did it align to the SOC 2 guidance? Where's that mapping? Where's that mapping that shows the controls that aligned back to that SOC 2 guidance? And what do we look at as the pre-audit? When we did a readiness, we did a gap assessment, whatever we need to remediate. What do we look at then that is making this go wrong now? And so suggestion number one is stop your audit. Just put it on hold. I have had to do that with companies, helping them through their audit, not being the auditor, but helping them through their audit. I have literally had to call the auditor and say, just stop. I need a minute. Now, when you do that, you're going to lose probably your timeline with your auditor because they're going to, they can't sit around and wait for you to do whatever. They're going to have to move on to helping another client through their audit. And so you're probably going to lose your spot, but that's okay, because here's the thing. A failed SOC 2 audit doesn't accomplish anything for you. It will probably result in a qualified opinion report, which is bad. It's very bad. You would never give your clients and your future clients a SOC 2 qualified opinion report. Never. They would run from you. And so that report is going to be worthless to you. So just stop. Then the other thing is I talk to companies and they say, well, we were just doing this audit. We were just doing the SOC 2 audit to try to figure out what we need to work on. So they skipped the gap assessment. They skipped the readiness and they just went right to, let's just do the audit and see what we're missing. That's a really bad idea. SOC 2 audit is not an internal audit function. The auditor is not going to come back to you and say, well, here's where you passed and here's where you failed and here's our recommendations and here's what you should do. That's not what a SOC 2 audit is. A SOC 2 audit is attesting or auditing to your system description and to your controls that align to the SOC 2 guidance. It's not like a PCI engagement or a high trust engagement where it tells you exactly the specific requirements that you have to meet and how you have to meet them. That's why those are much harder and more robust audits than a SOC 2, for example, because SOC 2 is attesting to your system description, the commitment that you provide to your clients and your future clients, the service offerings you have, the data that you have, your controls of protection that you have in place in your company. It's specific to your company. And so going through an audit, with a SOC 2 audit, with the expectation that the auditor is going to say, oh, well, here's what you need to work on, that's not even the intent of a SOC 2 at all. There is a process on the front end where you go through a readiness, you go through a gap assessment, you looked at what controls do we have in place in the environment that would align to the SOC 2 guidance. Where we haven't mitigated the risk in those areas, what are we missing? Then you identify what needs to be remediated. Then you go through this cycle of remediation. You remediate it. Then you go through this just high level validation. Okay, did we remediate? Are we good? Do we now? Let's align it back to the SOC 2 guidance. Let's make sure that we're covered. Okay, now we're covered. Now we're ready to move into the audit. if you skip those steps, you're going in blind, and what you're going to end up with is a qualified opinion that's not going to give you a laundry list of what you need to do. That is the wrong way to achieve that. The right way to get to your laundry list, so to speak, is do it on the front end, do your gap assessment, do your readiness, do your remediation, be appropriately prepared, have your controls written, have your system description written, know with the auditors coming in exactly what they're attesting to, and then move through the audit. Then it won't be surprised. Auditors should not be asking you for things that you do not know what they are. But boy, I tell you, that happens all the time. It blows my mind. Like, these are your controls. You should know what these are. They're not their controls. They're your controls. And that's what's very different about a SOC 2 audit. It's your controls that they're attesting to that, yes, have to satisfy the intent of the guidance. But the guidance is non-prescriptive. It doesn't tell you how to do it. That's your controls. And so they're not, at the end of a failed SOC 2 audit, you're going to get a qualified opinion report, or maybe they won't even bother doing it because they know it's worthless. And then you're not going to have your laundry list that you want. So that's not the way to do that. The way to do that is on the front end and follow an appropriate process. SOC 2 audit is not an internal audit function. If you're familiar with an internal audit function, it a lot of times does that. Like, they're testing a particular area, they're coming in, they're looking for different things. At the end, they give you recommendations. They tell you, what, here's the 20 things that I think you need to work on. That's not how a SOC 2 audit rolls. You want to take that mechanism and put it at the beginning before you even start your audit. So once your audit starts, you know your controls, you know the evidence, you know what's going to satisfy, you've been through the exercise, you know it aligns to the guidance, it's your controls, you're all over that. And then the auditor is just coming in and is attesting to that. And they're just walking through their steps to test the environment that you've already put in place to mitigate the risk of your security and make your company safe and your data safe, which is, after all, ultimately the goal. The SOC 2 audit mechanism and report is just verifying that. It is not intending to backwards fit and make a cybersecurity program. You would do that yourself on the front end. You would establish your controls, and the auditor would just validate that. That is the flow and the process of a SOC 2 audit, type 1 or type 2, frankly. If you think this video will help someone, especially somebody who's maybe going through a SOC 2, feel free to share it with them. I would appreciate that. And then if you have different experiences with your SOC 2 audit, before, during, after, please post them in the comments. I love real world feedback, so thank you for taking the time to do that.